Okay, good morning. It is Saturday morning, so I know that you students are all working really hard on the weekends too. So there's enough hard work to go around for all of us. I'm interviewing Dr. Tony Ferguson, a principal in Gwinnett County. She's going to help us think even more about our staffing work that we're doing in course. So, Tony, would you go ahead and introduce yourself to my students, please?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tony Ferguson, principal at Knight Elementary School, which is located in Gwinnett County Public Schools. I am actually in my 11th year as a principal, 11th year at Knight Elementary. So I've been at Knight for my entire principalship. I've been in Gwinnett County Public Schools now. This will be my 22nd school year in Gwinnett County. I have been a assistant principal in Gwinnett. I've been a teacher. I've taught third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grades. And I also have 3 years of experience in East Baton Rouge Parish in Louisiana. I taught in that district for 3 years prior to moving up to the Gwinnett County area. Um, with my experience in Gwinnett County as a principal, I'm also a parent. I have 4 children with a big range. My oldest son is a teacher in Atlanta Public Schools, and I have a 1-year-old. So
Oh,
education is
wow.
very important to me. Um, and it seems like I just have to have a child in school at all times. So I look forward to sharing with you all a little bit about my experience in Gwinnett as a principal when it comes to staffing.
Thanks, Tony. Now, you didn't even tell them the most important thing, which is you have at least one degree from West Georgia, right?
Yes, and I did not talk about those. Yes, so my undergraduate degree and my master's degree are both from Southern University, which is located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I have my specialist degree from the University of West Georgia, which I've had the opportunity to be an instructor over the last couple of years with West Georgia. So I've enjoyed that experience. And my doctorate is from Clark Atlanta University.
Thanks, Tony. I know you're busy, and let's just get right to it. I'm not sure that I'm calling this what it should be called. I'm calling it a point system, but I
Hmm.
know Gwinnett County has a unique way of allocating resources and giving principals some say so in that. Can you talk about what that what I'm calling a point system looks like?
Yes, absolutely. In Gwinnett, our point system, what it looks like, I would say it starts, we have like this time frame of where we receive different information for us to start planning for the next school year. So our planning starts around November, December, where I and all the principals will receive an enrollment projection from our planning department, which it tells us for the upcoming school year, based on like right now, the first Tuesday of October, where the state is going to be pulling our numbers and looking at how many students are currently enrolled in our school. Well, that kind of dictates what our allotment for points will be for next school year. So all of that, while that information is being collected now in November, December, I would receive a projection of how many students I can plan to have at each grade level. And then based on that, that will be used to help determine what my allotment would be for the upcoming school year. So when I receive this projection in November, December, I have to say if I agree or if I don't agree. And all my years, like I said, in my 11th year, I've done it once where I did not send a disagree. I had made a phone call to talk about the projection. And in that conversation, I stated that I had a question about it because I noticed that there were a lot of neighborhoods that were being built around the school. And what was shared at the time is that over time, I will see that with the allotment, but with the neighborhoods going up for those first couple of years, I wouldn't see any increase in enrollment, but I would over the years. So that's the only time I kind of had a question about it, but really they've been spot on each year with with that enrollment projection. So once we receive those around January, February, we receive a tentative allotment where based on the projection, I receive points in different categories on what I should use to help plan out for the staffing plan for the upcoming school year. And then in May, we receive our final allotment. And for this year, sometimes we have these, like there's possible adjustments that will happen throughout the time between January and May. This year, we received an allotment adjustment in March to allow for us to have additional points to help with staffing ESOL learning for students and early learning for those kids that are not even in school yet, like how we can go out into the community to help with our students. And then over the summer, because of the property tax increase, which I'm afraid to open my property tax bill right now. But because of that, we received some additional points at that time. So that kind of gives you just what our point system looks like in Gwinnett.
So Tony, help me understand, if you were allotted, let's just say 5 third grade teachers, and you really thought you needed, let's just say, a math coach, and you'd studied your data or whatever, and your teachers really needed more support in teaching math. I'm just making this up. Would you be allowed to trade one of those like third grade allotments for a math coach? Would you have the flexibility to do that as a principal?
Yes, we receive points based on categories, but they're all are put like in a bucket per se of these are your points for the school. So we do have that flexibility then to use the points in a different way.
And I assume well, let's just go to the next question, because that's where I was going to go. How do you, because the next question I have on the list here, how do you make those decisions inside your school, whether you want to follow what's been given or go in some different direction? How do you make those decisions?
So I start around January. I'm thinking I probably need to start in December now, but I send out a placement preference form that's in-house first to just see what our teachers' interests are. So that can help me know who's going to transfer, like looking to transfer to another school, who's looking not to come back, who's looking for a different grade level. Then I have grade level talks where I ask teachers in those grade level talks what's working for them, what's not working, what are some suggestions for the upcoming school year. But then we have a deep conversation about support, like how much support do you need as a teacher versus class size, because that's usually the biggest talk our teachers have is class size versus support. So are we looking at using our points more to reduce class size, or we are looking to use our points to help with providing additional support? So that happens around February, and we get around, like the APs and I, to every grade level so that teachers have voice in what the staffing plan could look like for the upcoming school year. Once I have those conversations based on the feedback that we receive, then the APs and I create a staffing plan that we present to the school and take final suggestions, feedback, and then we roll out the final one. My computer just died. Okay.
Okay, students, sorry we had a technical issue. We all have gotten used to that over the COVID years for sure. But Dr. Ferguson lost connection, so she's back. I think she had pretty much answered question 2. If I have it right, Tony, I recall you mentioned that basically you meet with every grade level team and receive their feedback, and then you meet with your administrative team, put a plan together, and then you present that plan in effect to the entire school, and then really allowing for a kind of a second round of input. Is that pretty much a capsulization of what you said?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
I thought it was interesting, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm not sure I ever heard it put the way you said it, when you said basically you put the test to the teacher in effect of kind of the test between more support versus class size reduction. I think that really is an effective way to look at that, because oftentimes in my experience, the conversation was always about class size reduction, at least from the teacher's perspective. That seemed to always be the first thing they would look at, but thinking about in terms of you can have more support is, I think it's just interesting the way you put those two things together.
Yes, yes. And that's proved to be beneficial and helpful because our teachers have voice and allowing of what support they see in their classrooms as well as within the school. So that's just a practice we started a couple of years ago and will continue to do so that teachers have voice.
Well, let me go to my third question because I'm really not sure. I thought I pretty much knew what you were going to answer on the first two, but I'm not sure on the third one. Once you get your allocations from your, I guess it comes from your planning department, or maybe HR is involved in that too. I'm not sure exactly where it comes from. What other kind of interactions do you have? And I know you mentioned earlier you questioned your allotment at one previous year, but are you pretty much on your own after that to work your point system, or is there other levels of conversation and permissions required or feedback or whatever from your district level personnel?
Yes, so the way that works is like you mentioned, we start with the projection from the planning department. Human resources give us the tentative allotment in January. We have opportunities for conversations with those two departments during that time. And throughout the year, as we're planning for the upcoming year, it's pretty much where you have autonomy. You create that on your own, yes. However, at any given time, we can reach out to human resources, to our cluster superintendents, and what our cluster superintendents are, where in Gwinnett, we have a group of schools, a group of elementary schools that feed into a middle school or two middle schools that eventually end up at one high school. We're a cluster and we have a superintendent that supports us. So that superintendent is available for those types of staffing, conversations, meetings, feedback, just somebody to have like a quick little brain trust meeting with, to have some talk about or dialogue about what your staffing plan will look like. So it's just based on the support that the individual principal needs, but we really have autonomy at that point once we receive our allotment on how we want to create our staffing plan.
Okay, good. I know this isn't on my question list, but it comes to my mind, and it's an unfair question, but do you have any sense how much your colleagues just accept the allotments as they're given, and how much autonomy they actually capitalize on and make changes? Or for the most part, do you think your colleagues just accept the allotments? I'm just trying to see how frequently maybe are you encouraged to use that autonomy and be kind of creative in how you use it, or is the general tendency to want to just work with what you've been allotted?
My experience has been is once that we're all anxious and excited about our allotment, kind of anxious and excited at the same time. When we received it in January, we have these, I guess you would call them like critical friend groups of principals that may get together to discuss the staffing plans that we're thinking about for the upcoming year. For newer principals, they have an opportunity of what's called just-in-time training, where our leadership department will schedule meetings for our new principals to actually sit down and talk with them about what the allotment sheet looks like, and have like some discussion like how they can look to staff their school. So as far as like being creative and innovative with your staffing plan, that's been my experience of just happening through the critical friend groups that we create on our own once we receive the allotment.
Sure. Yeah, good. Great. I'm going to our fourth question then. I think you're going to tell me one of the obvious challenges is just a shortage of finding the highly qualified classroom teachers and people that you want, but not to put words in your mouth, assuming that's a challenge. But what other challenges, if any, come to your mind when you're trying to, because we know how important the staffing is and how the quality people really make all the difference. Are there challenges you want to mention?
Well, you've already said what I was going to say. It's definitely the teacher shortage. Um, I've never felt it this much ever than I have this year. I can honestly say I have not experienced that prior to this year. So that's definitely it. But then this year, what's also happened is just the I guess because I've been in this now, this is year 25 for me, just taking a little step back. I've been having to pause a moment because of those that are like my son's age, that this is his third year as a teacher, not expecting to work outside of his hours. Um, how are you going to pay me for this? How are you embedding this in my workday? So I'm having to think about how to imagine like what the day looks like for our teachers so that the work gets done, and most of it happening during the day, because I actually had a kindergarten teacher this year to resign because of feeling as if she's constantly taking work home with her that's impacting her mental health and her family life, and choosing to pursue educational opportunities in a corporate setting where she feels like she wouldn't have to take work home with her. So that's so I feel like it does create like this new idea of work for teaching happening within the hours that are allotted is impacting staffing, because folks aren't choosing to go into the profession because of that now, and it's creating that shortage. So that's
Yeah.
just a thought I'm having.
Well, that's interesting because I don't work with that population at all at the university, as far as those that are just beginning their career. And I assume they were discouraged about, low pay, and maybe that, it's not a profession that people seem to respect. You just gave me another new way to think about that too, because I wouldn't have thought of what you just said at all.
Yeah, my son, he let me know that, as well as this kindergarten teacher. Um, and pay never came up. I know pay is an issue. I do understand that. But what I'm getting more of is the workload,
Yeah.
and the expectations, more than I ever have in previous years.
That's Thanks for sharing that. That's very useful, especially for me, because I wouldn't have come up with that one. Anything else come to your mind as we wrap this up here that I'm sure you're proud of the staff you've put together at your school. Anything else you would say to our students, my students, about this process that you think is important? Would be, you got a lot of good experience. I know you're a good principal. Anything else you can pass on?
Just as I think ahead for just how things are changing um, due to the pandemic we've experienced and so forth, and um, SEL, learning loss, and all those types of things. Just the importance of considering class size, the importance of building the capacity of teachers and having the staffing in place for that, like coaches, and what's the ideal number of coaches a school should have to build the capacity of the teachers, but then the level of support that students and teachers need, as far as those that have students that have experienced learning loss, or those students that may benefit from enrichment, actually having staff in place to provide those opportunities. So.
No, excellent comments. Dr. Ferguson, thanks for joining us on a Saturday. We appreciate it. I hope you have a good day today. Perfect weather. I don't know what you're doing, but I hope you enjoy yourself today. Thanks so much for giving my students a little of your time.
Yes, you all have a great day. Thank you.